What is good, everybody? This is your guy, Manny, and this is Talking Commanders with Manny podcast. It is a Washington Commanders podcast, and you are on the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel for those of you guys that are watching live. I appreciate you guys. So, today's episode is actually going to be the 100th episode of when I started the Skins slash Washington football slash Commanders podcast. This is now, a whole new name, as you guys should know by now. I'm part of a new network right now, so it's been an awesome experience so far. So this is actually the official first episode for the network. So um, y'all bear with me while I fix my headphones. All right, this is gonna look crazy. It's all good. Don't know why it looks like this, but it's all good. So this being the end review, um, episode, we didn't have the season that we wanted. All Commanders fans actually wanted to, make the playoffs and possibly get a playoff win. It was, steps. This is another year in Ron Rivera's tenure here. 3 years in, every year, 7 wins. It's like a curse. Well, this year we got that eighth win, finally broke that, that curse of 7 win seasons, but still, it's still a losing season. We have not had a winning season under Ron Rivera yet. So you look at the landscape of things, like what can you necessarily do to make this a better situation? Well, we're going to look at the stats and just a review of how this year went. Um, we are lacking at the offensive line. The offensive line is not good. We need to improve it. And do we improve it via free agency? Do we improve it via the draft? So lots of things to talk about, lots of things to really iron out. If not, we'll continue to get that same result, that same mediocre type team, that team that doesn't really, go anywhere. I'm going to share my screen just to kind of give the people that are watching a visual, and we can kind of go through team needs or team success or team strengths and weaknesses. So I would say one of the biggest areas that used to be a weakness for the Commanders was the wide receiving group. The wide receiving group is actually pretty solid. It might be one of the best positions on the team right now. And obviously, you can still improve this group. So you have Terry McLaurin, obviously wide receiver one, Curtis Samuel, wide receiver two, and Jahan Dotson, wide receiver three. Those two guys are interchangeable. Doesn't really matter who the slot guy is. You have three guys that are fast, three guys that can create after the catch, right? We haven't had three receivers that were this good since the Jamison Crowder, Deshaun Jackson, and Pierre Garcon year. That was like the best wide receiving core that I've had since I've been a fan since 1999. So it's great to finally see, okay, out of these three wide receivers, we drafted two. We drafted Terry in the third round some years ago, and then we drafted Jahan Dotson, 16th overall after moving back from 12. So he has looked awesome. He led the team in touchdowns this year, 7 touchdowns. So that's a strength right there. Now, you ask yourself, who are the backups? Will these guys be back next year? De'Ami Brown took some strides this year. He definitely showed me more than some of the young guys that we've had over the course of trying to draft a guy. It didn't work out with Antonio Gandy Golden. I'm not really here to point fingers and say this guy didn't work or that guy didn't work. But what I'm saying is, De'Ami Brown played very good versus that Titans game, like that matchup. Obviously, Jahan Dotson missing some games, so then you opened up some more opportunities for De'Ami Brown. He didn't really play a lot of. Well, he played some special teams and did some pretty good things on special teams, but that's kind of how you stick around. Cam Sims, he played some special teams, but he really was not a factor in the wide receiving group this year. Obviously, opportunity. You have three guys that you have to like fight to get some snaps from. But other than that, Cam Sims didn't give us much. You need to upgrade from Cam Sims moving forward. But then again, if he comes back on a cheap deal and the size, but we didn't even utilize him. So we don't really know who the offensive coordinator is going to be. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be. So those are some of the things to where can Cam Sims be beneficial to us offensively? He does a lot of different things for the team, but offensively, can the team upgrade from Cam Sims? I say yes. Dax Mill, a guy who ended up being our sixth wide receiver. We decided to let I forgot the wide receiver we had the year before that played well on special teams that, did some punt returning for us. Now you have, what's good, Ladarius Grant? Appreciate you hopping on the stream. Now you have a guy, in Dax Mill who gave you nothing in the punt return game. So you have to find another wide receiver who can come in and give you some punt return positive. I mean, because Dax Mill gave you nothing, right? Every time he touched the ball, max, he might get you 9, maybe 10 yards. Runs around in a circle, doesn't have the speed, doesn't have the quickness, can't really make a move and then create and gain more yards. I can't even tell you what Dax Mills' long was on a punt return. We'll check that later once we dig into the stats. Now, let's look at the offensive line group, which I thought was the weakest position for the team. Being wide receivers is the strength, the weakest was the offensive line. Charles Leno had a bad year. Backup Cornelius Lucas, he's solid. Maybe the team drafts another left tackle or drafts another tackle to where you swing, Charles Leno to the right, and then maybe you move Samuel Cosme to guard. I don't know. There can be a lot of reshuffling, but one thing that Ron Rivera always says is that, you know what? Position flexes everything, right? So, yeah, Charles Leno had a down year, but he's consistent. He did stay on the field. He reminds me of Morgan Moses. When he was here, he was available. Sometimes, he didn't always perform to the best of, his abilities, but it just is what it is. Ladarius says Dax is only known for Zach Wilson's fiasco. He's trash. Yeah, Dax Mill is pretty bad. Yeah, he's pretty bad. So, back to the offensive line. Wes Schweitzer playing center, I don't like that. We need to change this. I mean, Wes Schweitzer is a better guard, left guard, right guard, swing guard, whatever you want to call him. I don't like Wes Schweitzer as my center. I don't. I don't like it. Nick Martin, we have to upgrade the center position. One way or the other, you got to bring in a true center, a legit center, even if it means drafting one in the 3rd or 4th round. Has to be done. Andrew Noel, terrible. He's out of here. Chris Paul, maybe he's a guy that sticks on the team as a depth piece. He was a 7th round pick. He played solid in that last game versus Dallas. Trey Turner, terrible. Get him out of here. Sadiq Charles, I've not seen anything since he's been in DC. It might be time to go ahead and move on from Sadiq Charles. Cornelius Lucas is a swing tackle. He's solid. Samuel Cosme, he's solid, but I prefer Samuel Cosme more as a right guard than I do as a right tackle. So maybe the team drafts a left tackle and moves Charles Leno to the right, and you get this. So a lot of things can be done. A lot of things can be done on this offensive line. It might take just getting rid of some guys, 4 or 5 guys. It might take bringing in 4 or 5 new guys. I don't know. But we have to fix this offensive line some way, some shape or form. And that means investing into it. There's no more getting discounts in Norwell and getting discounts in Turner. No, those days of discounts are over with. Yes, Wes Schweitzer was a good pickup when that time was, but it's time to invest into this position, solidify, get you a new center, get you at least another guard and maybe another tackle, and then it changes everything. All right. Okay. Now, the quarterback position, it was bad, but it wasn't the weakest position. You had Taylor Heineke, who's a pretty good backup. Taylor Heineke did what he could as a backup, and we appreciate him for that, but he's just not that dude. Carson Wentz, he was terrible. He was a terrible signing. I tried to stand by him and try to support him the best I could, but he just wasn't good. He wasn't good. And then Sam Howell, he gives us just that one game. We have that one game to go off of. I kind of wish that Sam Howell got multiple games this year, but because we were competing and trying to make the playoffs, you couldn't really play a rookie and didn't even know what he could bring at that point. So if you go to Sam Howell too early, it's kind of like you're giving up on the season. But then maybe you get a better draft pick. Just because you get a better draft pick position or better draft position doesn't mean that you're going to hit on that pick. So that's another thing. We've had guys like Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen. These guys fell to us in the draft, and we benefited from those guys falling. So it really doesn't matter where you're drafting from. Sometimes you just got to just continue to just hammer away. You have to continue to hammer away. Sometimes that happens. So the running back position is a position that was revamped this year when you added a Brian Robinson Jr. Brian Robinson Jr. was solid. And then you have Antonio Gibson, who was used a lot in space. So I love the two as a combo. But I also feel like we need to upgrade this position. Maybe you add another guy that can come in and give you more than Jonathan Williams can. Maybe bring in another guy that can come in and give you a little bit of what Brian Robinson does and then a little bit of what Antonio Gibson does. Just in case you get injuries, you do not want to be one dimensional. You want to have guys that can do multiple things, right? So we're done with the offensive side. Let's look at the defensive side of the ball. The defensive side of the ball is supposed to be the strength of the team, right? This is where we're supposed to be. Like these are the guys, right? You're excited about the defense. They fly around. They're supposed to make plays and do this and do that. Montez Sweat was very good this year, and I'm going to get into all the stats. Deron Payne took a massive leap from the defensive tackle position. He should have been an All-Pro. He should have been a Pro Bowler. Obviously, of course, Jonathan Allen, the leader of this defense, he did his thing. Chase Young played a few games. Maybe they should have shut him down for the season. He's entering a pivotal year, and he has to take a leap because guess what? He's due to be paid. What do you do there? What do you do with Payne? Do you sign Payne? Do you let Payne go? Do you trade? Do you tag and trade? So many different scenarios. Montez Sweat, he's going to be coming up. So a lot of guys to really figure out on this defensive line. But I would say keep this line together as long as possible, which might be a year, maybe 2 years. I don't know. You have to invest in the linebacking core. So the defensive line is the best portion of this defense, is the strength of this defense, right? And then you're looking at the linebackers, they were the worst. They were worse and worse. You got David Mayo, Jamin Davis, Milo Effler and John Bostic and Khalid Hudson. Khalid Hudson did play well in that game versus Dallas, but you got to play more of Khalid and less of guys like Bostic and Mayo. It's just common sense. Like, you cannot roll out with these guys and say, these are our guys. And then, of course, Holcomb getting hurt. That didn't help the situation, but still, you need more. Jamin Davis took a big step. They used him as a pass rusher at times, which I did like. But it's like you got to get more. You got to get more out of Jamin Davis. You got to get more out of Jamin Davis. And this group as a whole needs help. If I'm the Commanders, the only guys that I would bring back would be Jamin Davis, maybe Khalid Hudson. If Cole Holcomb goes, you can upgrade off of Cole Holcomb. It's okay. Cole Holcomb is a big part of what the team does. I like Holcomb. I hope he comes back. But I'm saying if he leaves, then you got to do something, whether it's free agency. I would love to see them draft somebody in the draft in the mid rounds, and then just kind of hope and just see if these guys plug and fit your system. You can find good linebackers in the fourth and fifth round. You really can. It's just, are you willing to do that? They have not invested in the linebacking group outside of drafting Jamin Davis. It's like they don't care about that linebacking position. It's crazy. It's mind-boggling. You need a guy that can cover. You need a guy that can tackle. A guy that can play around the box. A guy that can possibly play that Buffalo nickel, which they love so much. The secondary was more solid than what I thought it was going to be. Let's break it down, safeties, and let's break it down. Corners. Kendall Fuller started out slow, then he picked up some steam and started doing some really good things. And he made us remember and think, hey, I'm Kendall Fuller. And Kendall Fuller's not as old as he played, but he at times he played pretty bad. Kendall Fuller has been solid this season, this past season, and during his whole tenure here in DC. I was like, hey, get rid of Kendall Fuller. Then I'm like, oh, he can stick around. But at the end of the day, you still need another corner. What I would like to see is the Commanders possibly go corner at 16, draft one of those top guys to pair with a Benjamin St-Juste. Benjamin St-Juste is going to be somebody. He's going to be somebody. I can't tell you what kind of player he's going to be, but he's going to be a stud. And then you can still have that rookie with St-Juste, Kendall Fuller. Then you got something here in the corner position. You got Wild Goose and Christian Holmes and Danny Johnson. You can just, hey, sprinkle some of that, sprinkle some of this, and then your corner group starts to look a little bit better. Maybe you bring in a free agent to push Wild Goose and Christian Holmes. Their jobs are not safe. Danny Johnson, your job isn't safe, undrafted and seventh rounder, and I don't even know what round Wild Goose went. So it's like you got to push these guys. You got to let these guys know, hey, this is full out competition. Then we go into the safety portion of this. Might be stronger than the corners. If you're talking as a whole, Derek Forrest broke out this year, led the Commanders in interceptions, but it was more than that. He made big hits. He made timely plays. He made clutch plays on defense all year. That's what you're talking about. You draft a guy in the fourth round and you start to develop him. And okay, somebody goes down, you put him in. And you're like, man, you got something here. And then now you can't bring him out because he's played so well. He played borderline Pro Bowl level play this year. Cameron Curl, he was solid, one of the better strong safeties in the league. That's another guy. Money is going to be tight. We got to pay Cameron Curl soon. Bobby McCain, he played okay. He's a guy that I do not mind moving on from. I'm almost tired of Bobby McCain, but hey, he played better this season than he did last season, so I got to give him credit there. And then Jeremy Reeves, man, this guy right here, our special teams ace, a guy that does a little bit of everything. This is what it is. This is what it is. He's very, very good, very, very solid at what he does. And I'm excited to have Jeremy Reeves to round up this safety group. And then you cannot forget Percy Butler, this year's rookie. He's going to take a leap similar to Derek Forrest. When is his time? Percy Butler is going to show you guys what he's all about. So that's the review in a nutshell. And then obviously special teams. You can't forget these guys. You have Tress Way, solid. Joey Sly had an up and down season. He needs to go. It's time to upgrade off of Joey Sly. And then Tress Way, once again, holder. And then long snapper Cameron Cheeseman. And then kickoff returner. I love Antonio Gibson as the kickoff returner. Like I said, Dax Mill got to go. He needs to go. Okay. Saw nothing as a punt returner, even as a backup kickoff returner. He just needs to be off the team. Jahan Dotson is a backup punt returner. I love that. I would love to see Jahan Dotson possibly return punts. Get the ball in his hands as much as possible and just let him ball out. Let him ball out. I think you need playmakers returning punts. And that's where we really need to find a true punt returner and maybe a guy that can return punts and kickoffs to where Antonio Gibson is now the backup kickoff returner. So that's that. Let's look at some numbers. You guys know that I love numbers. I'm a numbers guy. So when you're looking at stats, there's stats and then there's also what your eyes tell you when you actually watch the games. Yes, Brian Robinson had almost 800 yards rushing, but he played and looked like he was a guy who rushed for 1,000 yards. He was that good. He was that effective. The quarterbacks as a whole, you combine these numbers together and it's one terrible quarterback. I'm not going to get into so much of the touchdowns and the interceptions and things of that nature. Terry McLaurin, another solid year, another 1,000-yard season, 1,100 yards, but I need more touchdowns out of Terry McLaurin. Like, we cannot be making excuses for Terry anymore. It's time for him to elevate his game. We are going to need touchdowns, Terry. We're paying you like a number one receiver. We're paying you like one of the best wide receivers in the league, and we're going to need more. Curtis Samuel, he had under 700 yards. I predicted him for around 750. He missed it by 100, but then it's poor quarterback play. So maybe when you get some upgraded quarterback play, maybe the wide receivers' numbers look better in general. I'm not more so, even though I'm a numbers guy, if the team is winning and producing, that's actually better than the actual numbers. So I'm gonna let the numbers thing go as long as they are winning games and they are productive. Because sometimes you can have a productive offense, but the numbers might not be so great or amazing. Okay. So yeah, Terry, next year I'm expecting him to get some touchdowns. He's gonna need some touchdowns. He's gonna need more targets and more receptions. But I think with the evolution of Jahan Dotson, you're gonna see a way better Terry McLaurin come next season. But we'll see. Maybe Terry takes a step back for Jahan to take a step forward. As long as we're winning, I don't care really what happens with the wide receiving core. Curtis Samuel, I've talked about this on previous episodes. Maybe it's time to where the team can move on from Curtis Samuel. Maybe you can put that money elsewhere. Maybe you move on from Curtis Samuel and you draft somebody in the draft in the third or fourth round to replace him. A lot cheaper, rookie deal. Maybe a undrafted free agent might come in and surprise. I'm just saying. To conserve money, we got to pay a lot of people and invest in this much into the wide receiving room. The only guy that possibly is expendable is Curtis Samuel, especially right now. But I love all three being here. I am not complaining. That is not what I'm saying. I enjoy having really good wide receivers. I'm just saying, if you need to, be a little bit cheaper or conservative in a certain position, it could be wide receiver. We have two running backs that are under the rookie deal in Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. When it's time to pay Gibson, we'll have to figure it out. Maybe you let him walk and you draft another one. Like you never pay running backs. I mean, that's just one thing that you don't do. It's a rule. Jamin Davis took strides on this team as a tackler. He, rushed the passer a little bit. Derek Forrest, man, solid. Cameron Curl. These are all guys that did very, very well. Like I said, Deron Payne, 11.5 sacks is insane for me as a defensive tackle. 11.5 sacks that's as good as it's going to get. And he had to take the next step in this game because there were a lot of people talking a lot of trash saying, hey, do you let Deron Payne go? And it's not even about the sack numbers. It's about the impact. It's about the tackles for loss. It's about the different things that he was able to do. And if you compare his numbers through his career, right? Rookie season, 5 sacks, 2 sacks, 3 sacks, 4.5. Then he explodes for 11.5. Deron Payne is getting paid. Whether it's the Commanders paying him, whether it's somebody else, this guy had a career high 64 tackles, had a career high 11.5 sacks. He had a safety. I mean, what did he not do? Pass defense, 5. I mean, he was that guy. He was that guy. And I'm telling you guys, he's going to get paid one way or the other. Montez Sweat had a Montez Sweat type season. He was really good this year. He was really, really, really good this year. And in his 4 years with the Commanders, you got 7 sacks, you got nine sacks, 5 sacks, 8 sacks. So I mean, this is pretty solid, and he's due to get paid. He just finished his 4th year. The Commanders are going to give him that 5th year option, and then you figure it out when it's his time. You got to pay. You got to pay Payne or tag him, and then you got to 5th year Montez Sweat, and you just keep it moving. Like I said, this could be the last year that this defensive line is together, just because of the financials. But this is a solid group, one of the best groups in the league, and I think that they haven't really even taken that next step to that next level. You know what I'm saying? Last year, you saw Jonathan Allen break out. He had 9 sacks last year. That was great, career high. This year, he took a step back, 7.5, but he still continued to play at that Pro Bowl level. So that didn't change. From his rookie season till now, he had 1 sack, 8, 6, 2, 9, 7.5. I mean, that's solid. Like I said, defensive tackles are not really necessarily supposed to get a lot of sacks anyways. If they're getting anywhere between 6 to 7, that's really, really good. There's some really, really good defensive tackles that are getting around under 5 sacks. So anytime you see these guys get over 7 sacks, it's amazing to me. It really is. And like I said, he had a great year tackling this year. He had 65 tackles, defended 3 passes, had an interception. I mean, what couldn't he do this year? Like I'm telling you guys, Payne and Allen created such a bond and a duo that made this defense look so good and so amazing. So, like I said, this is this is the group. This is the group that literally carries this team. Derek Forrest, like I said, guys, 4 interceptions. Kendall Fuller 3. He ran 2 back for touchdowns, which is really, really solid for Kendall Fuller in a year to where, he's still 27 years old, still very young. But it was like there were times that he were playing and it was like, man, what's going on? Is it the right scheme? And, William Jackson III, I mean, it just didn't mesh. The minute they got rid of William Jackson III, you start to see the defense play a little bit better. You start to see the secondary play a little bit better. And from the time that he's been with us back in 2016, those first 2 years, he had 4 interceptions and had 2. Then when he came back to Washington after 2 years in Kansas City, he had 4 picks. Then he had 1 and 3. So he's getting back to his form. He's getting back to his element. Of course, tackles are down this year, which is not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's just one of those things. He defended 13 passes, which is the second most of his career. So he had an all-around really, really solid season. Like I said, he returned 2 of those 3 interceptions for touchdowns. So 2 pick sixes, man, I'll take that all day. Still need to improve that group. And I love the corners as a whole. Just needs just a little bit more tweaking to really make this group a whole lot better. Derek Forrest, man, I'm excited about this guy. Came in 4th-round pick in his 2nd year, took a major, major leap from the time that he was here to now. I mean, his first year in the league, he had 8 games that he played. He started none. He was more of a special teams guy where he comes in sparingly and plays, right? Then you become a guy who comes in sparingly, but then now you become a full-time starter. Played 17 games and you started 11. And from those times that you were starting, you start to see he started to evolve. He had 88 combined tackles. He had 49 solo tackles. He defended 9 passes. He had 4 picks. I wish he had a pick six, but it don't matter. Some of the picks he made were acrobatic and crazy. And that's what you love about Derek Forrest. I love where the team is defensively. Offensively, you still need you still need some help. You need some help offensively, but overall, I think that they're going to do what they can in the draft to go ahead and add some guys that are going to come in and literally change this franchise. You need a quarterback. That's the biggest thing. You need a quarterback. But if you want to go the route of Sam Howell, then you got to bring in a guy who was less talented than Sam Howell, or that you can compete with, or a guy that is coming in on a good contract. I'm hearing that Taylor Heineke might demand a lot of money. Maybe, it's as much as I love Taylor Heineke, it's time to move on from Taylor Heineke. Let's see what you got in Sam Howell, and then bring in another vet to where it's neutral. So that way it's not like, okay, if Sam is struggling and you go to Taylor Heineke again, and it's 3 years in a row of Taylor Heineke trying to bail us out, and then we're like a middling team. So maybe you bring in a guy like Andy Dalton or Jacoby Brissett, somebody like that. And if Sam Howell can't beat out a guy like that, Sam Howell does not deserve to be in the NFL. No disrespect to Sam Howell, no disrespect to Jacoby Brissett, but that's kind of where I'm leaning towards, a guy that can come in for under $5 million and then compete with Sam Howell. And then if it doesn't work, if the record is bad, then guess what? Sam Howell, goodbye. Get out of here. Get out of here. Then you move on from Sam Howell, and then you possibly go into 24 with the intentions of, we're drafting our quarterback. The team is going to get sold. There's no guarantee that the new owner keeps Ron Rivera employed. So you have that too. So potentially, if things don't go well this year, there's going to be a new coach next year. If there's a new coach, that coach would definitely love to draft his own quarterback. That's kind of how it goes. I'm not in on the whole Derek Carr thing. Derek Carr coming here means that you have to trade some assets. Derek Carr coming here on a contract or a free agency, that's fine. You see how we kind of got out of Carson Wentz's contract, and we were able to recover from what we gave up. We traded back, picked up an extra third, and then, not playing him, you get that second back. So it was beautiful all around. And then you have a third round comp pick this year. So we didn't really lose too much other than Carson Wentz taking up space. And, that $28 million, you can't cry about it. It's over with. It just didn't work. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what we do. I don't say trade for a guy, because there's nobody available that you can trade for that puts you as a team that's a quarterback away, or a team that's competing for, I won't say championships, contending in the playoffs year in and year out, but you see teams like 49ers, they have everything. They have a rookie quarterback who's working, and their system is, everything is gelling. They have the weapons all around. It's similar to what the Commanders have, but you got to get that elite type running back if you want to be in that class like the 49ers. We do have the elite wide receivers, yes. Jahan Dotson and Terry are on the same level as Deebo Samuel and Ayuk. We don't have the tight end and George Kittle, but hey, with time, you can find these different pieces. So guys, this is the episode. Thank you guys for listening. This is Talking Commanders with Manny, a regular season review, the 100th episode that I've done. So appreciate you guys. Please subscribe, please share on YouTube, on the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel. And then also, if you guys would do me a big favor and subscribe to the podcast, share the podcast, give me a 5-star rating, and leave me a review. It helps to boost the podcast. So you guys can find me on Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcast. Search Talking Commanders with Manny. It's a Commanders podcast. So I'm going to see you guys on the next episode, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. I'm out. Peace.